So Resident Evil 4 Remake is a game that is divided in 16 chapters, and at the end of each chapter, it gives you several stats, including your accuracy. Now for the average player, it will usually be in the 80 to 90% range, but if you're as good of a shot as I am, it will potentially look like this. Moving on. At first I was thinking I could try to beat the game with 100% accuracy, but why am I kidding? There's no fixing these shaky hands. What about as low accuracy as possible though? Would it even be possible to reach 0% accuracy? That's what I was determined to find out. So I did some testing, and through testing, I learned that I could shoot at the ground to get to 0%, and then kill enemies using grenades, proximity mines, and a knife, because that doesn't count towards accuracy. With these tools in hand, I was confident in my ability to beat this challenge. That was until I reached what shall henceforth be referred to as the eternal struggle of Chapter 11. But let's start from the beginning. As I mentioned before, I had to remember to shoot at the ground or in the air at least once per chapter. So I did that at the start of the game and ran in circles in the village until bingo started. Then I looted as much as I could and stealth killed a few enemies in the next area. I also defeated the bull in order to get some money later on. Careful buddy, there's a trap. Well, that must have hurt. Then I ran past enemies and freed Lewis. Jerry, what are you doing? I'm trying to do a challenge here. Get out. And that's chapter 1. Completed with 0% accuracy. Off to a great start. Knifing enemies seemed like the way to go, so I kept doing that and met the merchant. First thing I did is to sell as much as possible and upgrade the knife, it being my main source of damage. Knifing the chainsaw guy was risky, but by skillfully dodging his swings, I managed to kill him. Goodbye, chainsaw man. Ah, what the fuck? I reached the house and finished chapter 2 with 0% accuracy once again. Now I know I'm going quite fast through these early chapters, and you're probably thinking this challenge looks quite easy, right? Well, it wasn't. Mainly because of one specific reason. No need to dwell on that right now though. Back to chapter 3. I ran past the most annoying enemies and knifed the easy ones for some quick cash. And it was already time to face the challenge run ender. The scripted Del Lago fight. I really didn't have a plan going into this. I saved before the fight and I was ready to stop this challenge right after this chapter, since I have to shoot it directly. So I threw spears at the thing, while tears were streaming down my face. And then I got to the chapter results screen. Yep, you're seeing it correctly. 0% accuracy once again. Somehow, the spears don't count towards accuracy. This was good and bad news at the same time. Good news because I could continue the challenge, but bad news because it only gets harder from then on. In the following chapter, I tried to abuse the spears again, but all I was really able to kill was some fish. Then I came face to face with the first normal boss of the run. A big giant wanting to smash Leon to the ground. Honestly, I thought it would be no problem. I had an upgraded knife and I was ready to slash some heels, but it didn't go that well. Damn. Turns out enemies on professional difficulty are quite tanky, especially when all you have is some kitchenware. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. After almost dying running past some dogs, I found Ashley. And immediately had to face something even more terrifying than a giant, an old cabin. But at that point, I had some more tools at my disposal. A bunch of grenades to clear packs of zombies, but most importantly, the bolt thrower and its attachable mines. That was really cool, because of course I couldn't shoot the bolts directly into enemies, but shooting at the ground wouldn't count as a hit. So that would keep my accuracy to 0 and allow me to get into safer positions by blocking off a path and blowing up zombies walking on the mines. And you might not believe me, but with all of these tools and my trusty knife, I actually cleared the cabin section on my first attempt. Chapter 5, Obliterated. It was sometimes way harder to navigate through an area than to face a more challenging enemy. This corridor, for example, was extremely difficult because Ashley keeps getting caught and I can't really help her efficiently. Also, it started to feel like enemies were catching on to what I was doing, and they would sometimes dive in front of my shots to get hit, making me have to reload a previous save. Just like in my previous challenge, the Chainsaw Sisters weren't actually a big threat. I stacked a few mines on their spawn and then kept blowing them up until I ran out of bolts. Fortunately, the one with the crank was a few knife swings away from dying. Oh god, Jerry, I'm so sorry. So I finally reached Mendez. Chapter 6, cleared. Entering the castle, I was immediately confronted with the worst area so far. Here, catapults shoot me and Ashley, and I couldn't shoot the barrels to explode them because that would count as a hit. In hindsight, I probably could have yeeted a grenade or shot an explosive bolt next to them, but I was way too conservative with my ammo to even think of that back then. So I went for the run and pray strategy. God damn it. After many attempts, I got it to work. Only thing is, I need to shoot stuff with the cannon. And like the harpoon from Del Lago, I had no clue how this would affect my accuracy. Worst part? This is the beginning of the chapter, meaning I have to go through the rest of it just to know if it counted or not. I shot enemies, barrels, and the door with it. Maybe barrels add to my accuracy or maybe enemies do, but to know that for sure, I have to complete the chapter, and if it actually counted, I have to restart it from the beginning. With that in mind, I rushed inside, kept sneak attacking the blind guy to kill him with ease. Then I had to solve a puzzle to progress. I didn't want to shoot the puzzle gongs because I thought that would affect my accuracy. So I tried to use a grenade to activate them, but it actually activated all of them, so that didn't work, and I had no choice but to solve it normally. Well, hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. So now I was praying that both the cannon and this puzzle didn't ruin the run. But this chapter wasn't over. Next up was Waterhole. This room has quite the reputation, since even back in the original, it was one of the only rooms that you couldn't complete knife only. Same goes here, since Ashley climbs out of reach of Leon and enemies try to grab her. I could obviously throw grenades up there, but I didn't have enough, and I would probably just end up killing Ashley. My only option was the bolt thrower and its attachable mines. I already struggled a shit ton to make that work in my previous challenge run, and I could shoot directly at enemies back then. I wasn't really eager to do this, but I couldn't think of anything else, so here we go. First, I realized that I couldn't even place mines on the ground, since it's elevated, so I had to think of something else. And what I came up with were the entrances and the stairs. These were the only spots I could aim at, but I need to shoot enough bolts fast enough to clear every enemy before they even get out. If ever one of them crosses these lines, there was no way for me to kill them. I couldn't even get them on the way back or delay the kill a little bit because Ashley being carried or running through would end up with her dying from the blast. Oh, and also a few enemies come to attack Leon, so I had to deal with those as well. After a few deaths, I did figure out a trick to save Ashley after the capture. If I were to aim my bolt rather low on the side of the platform, the blast radius wouldn't get to her, but it would still kill the enemy. With that knowledge, I finally ended up clearing the room and escaping. And ladies and gentlemen, that's chapter 7, completed with 66.7% accuracy? What? After taking a peaceful break from the game, I reviewed the footage and came to the conclusion that one of two things ruined the run. It was either the cannon or the puzzle. I thought the puzzle was most likely, and also it was later on in the chapter, so I started there. Unfortunately, I had no idea how to get through without shooting the gongs. I tested throwing a grenade again and again, and noticed that the blast radius could hit certain gongs and not others. I needed to hit the eagle on the left side and the snake on the right side. And after a few dozen throws, holy shit, that actually worked? Well, onto Waterhole again. Okay, now for the reveal. Dealing with the armored Gigante wasn't too troublesome, since I knew I could for sure use the cannon now. Nothing else important happened during this chapter, so moving on. The maze followed, and somehow it went pretty well. I put mines on the ground and knifed the dogs, so me and Ashley managed to escape. I blew up the guy lowering the bridge to quickly grab the key item and ran out of the room as fast as possible. And I did struggle quite a bit in the night room. I ended up having to use a flash grenade after exposing the parasites with my knife to clear multiple knights at once. I ran through the bug-infested hall and then I had to defeat 2 blind guys, and let's say I didn't do it stealthily this time. In the alien isolation segment, my plan was to run in circles and wait for the elevator to come by, but I was taken aback during my first run through, because I was breaking boxes and looting nothing. I think somehow the game considered that I had too much in my inventory and it couldn't really give me ammo for any weapon because I wasn't carrying any, so it gave me nothing? Great. Not like I needed resources anyway. I found Lewis, collected some TNT, and now we had to fight 2 giants. For the first one, the usual strategy worked quite well. Throw a flash grenade while he's on the platform and drop him in the lava. But I didn't have a plan for the second giant. Usually Lewis attaches dynamite to its back and you can shoot it to expose and stagger him. I was almost sure shooting the dynamite would result in my accuracy going up. So I did the only thing that I thought could work. And eventually, it did. And now, for what started the eternal struggle of Chapter 11, the minecart segment.
Hope you like thrill rides.
In this section, you have to shoot enemies with a gun Lewis gives you. I was hoping that, just like the Del Lago fight, it wouldn't count towards my accuracy, but it did. After killing Krauser, it said that I had 47% accuracy, and I was sure I didn't shoot anything before or after that. So I was at an impasse. I needed to get through the minecart segment without shooting enemies, so I tried many things. I tried shooting the carts only, but that counted as well. I tried to look up ways of skipping the section, but nothing seems to have been found yet. I even considered spending hours honing my skills to be able to shoot bolts in the air and prevent damage to my cart, but that was unrealistic. I had one last idea though. Let's say I had to shoot around 25 times to get past the minecart segment. If I were to not miss any shot, that would bring my accuracy to 100%. But what if I missed 25 intentionally? Then my accuracy would drop to 50%. And if I were to miss 75, my accuracy would go down to 25%. So let's say I were to miss 52,000 shots. Then my accuracy would be 0.048. Rounded to the first decimal, that's 0.0%, right? So that was my plan. Now, normally it would be foolish to attempt, since it is impossible to gather enough ammunition. But you know what has infinite ammunition? The bolt thrower. So I started shooting at the ceiling over and over and over again. Then I went into the Krauser fight to test my theory, and my accuracy did drop significantly. But it wasn't enough, and I wasn't down to sit in front of my computer for days only to shoot bolts in a ceiling. So I downloaded AutoHotkey, and with the help of ChatGPT, I wrote a script to automatically shoot bolts, pick them up, and reload. I launched the script and waited. And eventually, I think I hit 52,000 bolts shot. I faced Krauser one last time. And how? I was officially defeated. Now, I know 0.1% isn't quite 0%, so I guess Chapter 11 is a big fail, but I wanted to keep going. And on the bright side, 5 chapters left, and surely none of them had any kind of bullshit like that, right? I made my way out of the castle into the clock tower, and I hit a sick grenade throw to disable the flame-throwing statue. I was extremely scared of the elevator ride, but planting mines around the places where enemies drop and knifing the ones jumping onto the platform was somehow enough. Yet another boss was in my way, Ramon. No eggs for me, so I created a minefield and waited for him to come to me. Turns out, he doesn't have a lot of different moves once in melee range. I would wait for his grab attack, dodge it, and knife the hell out of him. It staggered him quite often, and I kept dying for no reason. But I beat him and finished yet another chapter. The island has a lot more dangerous enemies. But it turns out, when you don't greed for kills, it isn't too complicated to just run through areas. Holy, I'm a speedrunner. I ended up in a lab in no time, and I was shocked to discover that the regenerators are much easier to defeat with the knife than with the bolt thrower. I could destroy their hearts one by one, and I just parried when I needed. After getting the wrench on the first one I killed, I kept going and ran out of there.
Ashley.
Oh wait, Ashley's in this game. The next few rooms were tough to get through with only a knife and some grenades, and I did try to beat another regenerator before realizing the best move would be to run past him. Just like last time, I couldn't help Ashley when she was lowering the bridge. So once again I planted mines behind her and enemies got killed on their way there. The wrecking ball section was also quite easy since I threw grenades at the wall to destroy it, and I didn't have to wait for Ashley to get through the required training necessary to operate the demolition vehicle. Krauser came back, and I was in a little bit of trouble, because he was done using knife only, but I didn't really have a choice. So I waited for him to get bored of shooting arrows, and we had a little duel before he ran away again. After catching up to him, I kept stabbing, and Leon got to show off his incredible kicking skills. And now for the final part of the fight.
You're too soft to do what's necessary. You.
Yeah, I bought a rocket launcher. I had some extra money, and I thought what better time to use it than to avenge the death of Lewis. Turns out rocket launchers don't count towards accuracy, so that's chapter 14 in the pocket. And yeah, I could have fought Krauser without using this overpowered weapon. But sometimes it's about sending a message, you know? I was really scared of the next few areas because I struggled so much in my previous run. Enemies are extremely tanky, and I didn't want to spend all of my money to upgrade Krauser's knife. I had no new tools compared to before, but you know what? It actually wasn't too bad. Because I could throw grenades, I blew up the giant turret, and I was able to skip a good chunk of the level. Then I ran to the levers opening the exit, and I used the flash grenade not to get stuck in a corner with 200 zombies physically assaulting Leon. Mike exploded in the sky, and I sneaked past the last few regenerators because I didn't want any extra fight. A little bit more running, and Ashley was mine once more. We got rid of the bugs crawling under our skin, and that was it for the penultimate chapter. And there I was, chapter 16. After about 20 hours of gameplay and 15 hours of shooting bolts into a ceiling, I could finally kinda complete this challenge. So I sold everything I had left to the merchant, bought a rocket launcher, and blasted the final boss in the face. But something felt wrong. It couldn't end like this, right? Then I remembered something an old friend of mine once told me.
Not my place to say, really, but sometimes things are more interesting if you keep a level playing field. Don't you find?
He's right. I don't need to resort to this.